Sonic 06 may have been one of the worst Sonic games to this day. It controlled horribly, the art style sucked, the story was bad, and it was just pretty buggy overall. It's a super well-known fact that this game was not the greatest. But one thing is for sure, and it's that regardless of your feelings for this game, the core of it, how it was designed, is still very good and intact. I understand how bad of a game Sonic 06 is, but I've always had somewhat of a soft spot for this game, because even as a kid, I thought this was the coolest game ever made. I remember listening to His World, seeing all the AMVs and watching all the CGI cutscenes. I thought this was the game of all time. The aura this game radiating was so alluring to me as a kid. Just seeing these three characters stand next to each other and listening to this music made me think this Sonic game was the game I always wanted. And to be fair, that never really changed. I'll get more into that later on in the video. Regardless, I never really got to play it much as a kid because the game was too hard for me. I always watched my big brother play it, and I vividly remember him getting red-faced angry at the End of the World segment. Specifically the Rouge section, which I can't even blame him, that actually sucks. But I eventually got older and I decided to play it. And, it was pretty bad. I still loved a lot of stuff in this game, specifically the levels and the world. Yeah, the art style did suck, but if it was just revised a little bit more, it could have started looking something akin to Sonic Unleashed. And that game looks beautiful. The levels were also just great, flat out. Yeah, it was buggy and it did not control very well at all, but while playing, you can always feel the skeleton of a very ambitious and amazing Sonic game that never got made. That's when Project 06, created by Chaos X, jumps in. I'm sure almost everyone watching this video, if you are a Sonic fan, you already know what this is. This is a fan-made project meant to finish the quote-unquote worst Sonic game ever made. And I personally think that they did a fantastic job. Now, of course, it's not finished yet. There's still one last update coming to the game that has boss fights and all kinds of other extra content. But all of the levels in the game with the three main characters and all of the side characters are fully playable from beginning to end. You just can't play the story. And that's okay. That's okay. I'm not mad. You can pretty much play through the entirety of the meat and potatoes of this game, so I kind of see it as reviewable. And man, did this game improve on Sonic 06. Everything from controls, visuals, world, and gameplay. Literally everything is better and now finished. Words cannot express how big of a jump of quality this fan game is from the original Sonic 06. I mean, you can tell without even playing the game, just look at it. Somehow, this fan game is the best looking Sonic game ever made, and that's insane to me, especially because it's made in Unity. Sonic Team is like a AAA developer. They have better resources. I don't know how this is the best looking game. All of the textures are upscaled in resolution, and these models look superb. I never was a fan of the Sonic 06 models. I thought they just looked a little too lanky and Sonic's banana quills look kind of weird. But I don't know, something about them in Project 06 makes me kinda like the models. Probably because of the animation. In the original Sonic 06, the game was animated really poorly. There was no fluidity to Sonic's movements, he kinda just snaps into place constantly. And even at that, the animations were very stiff and unnatural looking. In Project 06, there's a bit more of a build-up to max running speed, and the animation reflects that. It's almost like how a modern-day Sonic Adventure game would control. Every animation flows into one another very smoothly, and even the camera follows Sonic in a smooth fashion. This whole game is smooth. It gives off a very polished vibe that you rarely see with any Sonic game, especially when you consider some of the animations thrown into the beginning of these levels, such as the openings to the first two Silver levels, where you can actually see Silver enter the level before you begin to play it. Small details like that is what I live for. It feels like the game is alive. It's a level of polish that makes Sonic feel like a AAA gaming franchise. The polish of this fan game almost reminds me of Nintendo. I know it's like a weird comparison, but it just has a level of quality to it and curation that shows just utmost perfection. Every decision made for this game was perfectly made. And it seems to be that Chaos X is just one dude doing this with a little bit of help from others. I don't know how this guy does it, but this one guy is so good at knowing what makes a game fun and what doesn't. The quality control on this project is nothing short of genius. It's honestly so impressive. I'm probably going to be saying that a lot. It's clear that Chaos X seems to be very well educated on game design, and when this game is finally fully finished, this would probably be the perfect showcase of their skills and knowledge. This would make one hell of a resume for future game development opportunities, because this isn't just a fan game, this is a real developer making something great. Okay, but I'm gonna stop the writing. Okay, I'm gonna stop. Not trying to worship Chaos X here. Alright, let's continue. Let's talk about the actual gameplay of the game. The skeleton of this game was always great. And the level design was always very intricate and had a lot of potential. I think my favorite part of the level design is just how real these levels feel. In almost every 3D Sonic game ever made, the levels are made in a linear fashion where you just keep moving forward and finish the level. You don't really turn left or right much, and there's no reason to move around in a circle. The game is always pushing you to move forward. There's nothing wrong with that. But what Project 06 does is it takes that formula, but also makes it fun to not follow the linear set path. There's an actual reason for Sonic to move around in a circle because of how wide and open some of these levels are. Take White Acropolis, for example. There's a section nearing the end of the stage where you just kind of go around and do whatever you want and progress however you want. It's not linear at all, and if you just want to head for the goal ring, you can do that. Or if you want to explore, grab some more item boxes, grab some more rings so you can up your score, you can also do that. In fact, it's almost like encouraged you do that, because these levels are very open, but yet I feel like every single inch of these levels are important and have something to do in them. It makes all of the levels in this game feel like real locations that exist in Sonic's world. You're not just in a speed-focused obstacle course. You're actually playing in a valley with a kingdom in it. There's room to move around. This is a space. This is a 360-degree space. And every single level in this game is so replayable because of this. And every playable character offers different perspectives and pathways in these levels, thus making it feel even more alive than previously. Every level feels important. Speaking of playable characters, there are 3: Sonic, Shadow, and Silver. So I'm gonna cover each playable character's stories individually. Honestly, it just makes the scripting process a whole lot easier, so let's jump right into it. Before we move on, this video is sponsored by me. Recently, I realized that doing YouTube is kind of difficult, especially when I don't have a whole lot of time and I want to make more ambitious videos like this one and the previous one. The last one was like 50 minutes. That took a lot of work. So I'm gonna put the offer out there. I have made a Patreon where you guys can go ahead and support me if you wish. The $3 tier gets you nice little sneak peeks at every video I make. You will know what video I'm making, what's going to be in it, little details like that. The $3 tier also guarantees that your name will be listed at the end of every video, and the $5 tier allows you to get access to my videos 3 days early, as well as all the previous benefits. And the $5 tier also guarantees that your name will be read off at the end of the video. There are some other tier options if you're interested, but I'm only listing the first 2 because it's the most affordable options. So please, if you're interested in my content and you enjoy my content, feel free to donate a few dollars. Pretty much all of the money being made from the Patreon will be going back into this channel, whether it's hiring extra editors or paying for thumbnail artists, etc. It just makes this whole process a whole lot easier. And if not, that's cool too. Just enjoy the video, leave a like, and that's enough support for me. Anyways, let's continue with the video. Starting with the Sonic story, it can be best summed up as an evolution of the Sonic Adventure gameplay. There's no boost, just running on the ground and building up speed. There is in fact momentum in Project 06, it's just not super important, and it's very subtle. You do gain speed going downhill and spin dashing downhill. I like to spin dash down the slopes in Aquatic Base, that's very satisfying. But the spin dash isn't as manipulative as it is in Sonic Adventure 1 and 2. In those games you could spin dash up any slope and get some really good air time, which I would have much preferred, but it's not here in Project 06. Regardless of that, the gameplay itself makes up for it in great strides. It's good enough that you don't even have to worry about momentum. First of all, the controls have received a lot of changes. For one, the jump is a lot more floaty, which I really like. Every time you jump, it has the perfect amount of air time to be able to platform smoothly and do homing attack chains. Something I hated about the original Sonic 06 is that every time you did a homing attack, the camera would jolt forward and it was really annoying. Here, it's very smooth. In all honesty, I don't really fight with the camera that much, which is pretty impressive considering how massive these levels tend to be. And at the end of the day, there's a lot of improvements made to this game, but by far the biggest has got to be the Mach speed sections. In the original Sonic 06, these were a violation to the player. They were downright evil. The concept was great. The idea of throwing Sonic in a setting where he's going max speed and the player has to avoid obstacles being thrown their way. It's adrenaline rushing. And it's also, bear with me, makes you feel like Sonic. I'm sorry. But what sucked is that these sections controlled like big booty water, mainly in regards to the jump. Every time you jump, you were locked mid-air and you could not control where you landed whatsoever. And it caused many BS mistakes. Because with every jump you made, you had to commit to it because there is no forgiveness if you jumped in the wrong direction. You're just flat out dead if you made a mistake. In general, these sections to the levels were flat out bad. There is no excuse or logic behind not allowing the player to control Sonic mid-air. So instead of these sections being fun conclusions to levels, they became a dreaded nuisance. Every time you played through Sonic 06, it was like, ah shit, here comes another Mach speed section. Project 06, thank God, it fixed it. You now have smooth, full air control. It's finally playable. These Mach speed sections are honestly some of my favorite parts of the game now, just because of how fast you're going. This is some of the fastest Sonic will ever go in any Sonic game. It rivals certain sections in Sonic Unleashed and Sonic Generations. Also, every Mach speed section is just a beautiful work of art. Like I said earlier, every level feels like a real location. And with Mach speed sections, you're covering a lot of ground in the level very fast, thus making the world feel even larger than it really is. You get to see just how huge the beaches of Wave Ocean are, or how large of a city Crisis City really is. And my favorite, Kingdom Valley. It is crazy to me that this is a real Sonic level. Even for the original Sonic 06, this level was stunning in visuals. I'll never understand how a lot of 2010s creators would just bash this game and call it soulless, because this is not soulless. You cannot create something like this and be called a bad developer. What even is this set piece? This is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in a Sonic game, and much further a platformer in general. This is gorgeous. Talk about ambition. Kingdom Valley is easily my favorite level in the game, and in reality, it's one of the best designed levels in the entire franchise. I just wish newer Sonic games had the creativity to create a new, unique location like this one, because this is so unique to Sonic, you're never gonna find a location like this in any other platformer. I'm a huge Mario fan, alright? I've played tons of Mario games. I've never seen a Mario game look like this before. This is a masterpiece quality looking game. And Sonic's story just has the perfect blend of everything: platforming, set pieces, and exploration. It achieves a flow state that no other Sonic game achieves, because there's nothing more addicting than running through these levels, exploring, and homing attacking every little enemy and item box. It's just peak fiction. Oh yeah, and one thing I forgot to talk about with Sonic's story is the playable characters. Now, I'll get more into it as we progress through the video, but the playable characters in Project 06 is genuinely perfect. First, you have Tails, which he kind of just flies around and throws bombs, but he has some really fun platforming segments. Just some simple platforming, but you get to kill enemies as you go. It's just super satisfying, and honestly a big change up of pace in the level that makes it really fun. And then you have Knuckles, and he controls so much better than he did in Sonic 06. In Sonic 06, for some reason, he weighed a ton. He always just fell really fast when gliding. But in this game, he has the perfect amount of weight, and he's super fast. I love how fluent Knuckles controls. And his sections are a bit more explorative. Again, it's another great change up of pace from Sonic's main gameplay. Anyways, I just forgot about that. We can continue on to Shadow. The game designers definitely knew how fun the exploration was going to be in Sonic 06. And while Sonic's story did a very fantastic job at balancing exploration and speed, we are still given Shadow's story. And Shadow is all about exploration. Now, in the original Sonic 06, I hated Shadow's story. If you ever played the original Sonic 06, playing Shadow's story was a self-inflicted pain ritual. Mainly due to how broken and unbalanced a lot of small things were. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But thank God, Chaos X, Lord and Savior, fixed all of these issues. And it once again proves that the core design of Sonic 06 was fantastic. It just needed a bit more time and polishing. Playing through Shadow's story is much like Sonic's story. They roughly control the same, and at times share almost identical stages. But the big difference is that Shadow has a much larger focus on exploration and combat. A lot of these levels require the player to do something like defeat enemies to open up a door to progress. I think the best way to describe Shadow's story is that it took the addictive nature of spamming A on a bunch of item boxes and enemies, and turned that up to 11 and made it the main gameplay. And God, is it addicting. Instead of speedrunning these levels, I much more prefer exploring them and finding all the item boxes and killing all the enemies. That's what I always did in Sonic's level. I love the exploration of this game. So Shadow's story feels like it was made for me. There is nothing more addicting than exploring every section of these levels, killing every enemy I see. And look, I understand how monotonous the whole gameplay is. The combat isn't very much different from Sonic. You pretty much just homing attack the enemies to kill them. But some of these enemies don't go down in a one hit, so you have to spam A to kill them. And when you do that, Shadow does this thing where he thrusts mid-air and attacks them. Almost a violation of these robots' rights, but that's how he kills them. I don't judge. You can also throw a Chaos Spear to stun them so you can attack them easier, but that's about as far as the combat goes. And pretty much every single combat scenario can be defeated with a Chaos Spear and spamming A. Now, understandably, this can get repetitive. Just spamming A over and over again on every enemy, it sounds not fun. But I don't know. It's just addicting somehow. Since you can kill every enemy in under 2 seconds, it fulfills that ADHD itch that I got. This is why I like Sonic Frontiers. I don't know what it is about it. I just like to do a bunch of small things very fast. I love hopping around, killing every enemy, and progressing forward. There's something so enjoyable about it, especially when your meter fills up. I don't know what to call this meter, but you can fill it up through combat, and when it is at max, you can enter a powerful state where Shadow just mows down enemies extremely fast. I will say though that this part of the gameplay is the best part of Shadow's story, because something that did return were the vehicles. In the original Sonic 06, there was entire sections to levels built around them. I despise the vehicles. First of all, this is Shadow the Hedgehog. He does not need a car or a motorcycle. He is as fast as Sonic. Why is he driving a motorcycle? He's just aura farming. That's all he's doing. I hate the concept already. This is a platformer. I don't want to drive a car, but it was in the game, and it really sucked. There are 4 types of vehicles. You got the motorcycle, the glider, the ghost from Halo, and this military type vehicle. Let's take it one by one. The motorcycle controlled like garbage, but it was the least offensive. It was only really used on radical terrain, and it wasn't so bad in that stage. The glider was stupid and awful. This thing can shoot missiles, which is pretty cool, but it also controls really wonky, and it breaks very easily. It made these sections where Shadow had to fly so unbearable. The Ghost had a terrible turning radius, and it was really broken. I vividly remember hating Kingdom Valley because of it. It would always get destroyed or caught on something. It just always broke. It was so stupid. And finally, the car. It was aight. I mean, it's pretty annoying to use, but for the most part it was optional, so that made it kinda cool. You could use it in White Acropolis and the beginning of Crisis City, but I always specifically chose to not use it, because I just liked running better. Haha, especially at the beginning of Crisis City. Sonic got to skate down with a board down fallen buildings, surrounded by a city on fire. It was so badass. But Shadow just got this slow and clunky car, and it completely removes all of the aura that this stage previously had. During the original Sonic 06, the vehicle sections were about 90% of my deaths. They were terrible. They weren't even a good concept to begin with. I hate vehicles in Sonic games. In Project 06, I still don't love it, but it's a lot better to the point where it doesn't even bother me anymore. First things first, the optional vehicle sections have been removed, such as White Acropolis or the beginning of Crisis City. Instead, you just complete those stages on foot. You know, because Shadow is already fast and doesn't need a car. It honestly saves Crisis City and brings back all of its aura. The beginning of that stage is now just Shadow running down buildings instead of driving down them, and that's so much better. It makes the player feel free, and since Shadow controls so well, it inherently makes the game better by removing the vehicles. However, there is still moments in the game where you are forced to use a vehicle, and to be fair, there's nothing Chaos X could have done about this without greatly altering the main design of these levels. So, I'm not gonna knock them for it, there's nothing they could have done, but I am still not the biggest fan of these sections. I don't think they're bad anymore. The Ghost section at the beginning of Kingdom Valley is not nearly as frustrating as it was in Sonic 06, and it's over pretty quickly. And all of the glider sections are short in runtime, so it doesn't bother me. I would prefer if they did not exist. And I swear sometimes in these levels it feels like a checklist. Like here's the Shadow section, then the playable character section, and then the vehicle section. And I get that checklists help keep a good structure to a level, but honestly these levels contribute nothing to these stages but pad out time. Basically what I'm trying to say is that it's filler, like Naruto. You know what's not filler though? The playable characters. I'll say it again, these characters are so awesome. Rouge is pretty much just Knuckles again, but she can throw projectiles like Tails. And often her sections of the stages are reminiscent of the Emerald Hunt stages from Sonic Adventure. I really like the idea of the Emerald hunting being a gimmick in a level rather than a whole gameplay story. It makes it feel more like a pleasant surprise than a forced section of the game. Again, stuff like this makes every level feel special in one way or another. But oh my favorite playable character in the game is by far Omega. Not only does his combat fit the stages so well with very easy spammable attacks, but he can also shoot projectiles. and there is a first-person perspective that I love using. It's literally like an FPS. I can just look ahead at all of the enemies in the level and kill them before continuing. It gives so much choice to the player because you could just kill these enemies normally, or you can kill them ahead of time. It really makes you feel like you're in control of this game. God, I love Omega. There could be a whole story of Omega levels and it would never get old. Unfortunately, he's only in 2 levels, but those levels are so perfectly designed for him. Overall, Shadow's story is absolutely amazing, and at times it rivals the quality of Sonic's story, which is kind of crazy to me that a playable character's story can be on the quality of Sonic. That's something you'd never see from a Sonic game. Even some of my favorite games like Sonic Adventure and Sonic Unleashed, you have to admit that the Sonic sections are better than the rest of the game. With Shadow and Silver, which we'll get to in a second, even these parts of the game are good and are worth playing just as much as Sonic's section. And you know what? Speaking of Silver, my least favorite part of Sonic 06 definitely had to be Silver's story, which is really disappointing because Silver is such a cool character. He's a part of the GOAT trio for a reason, but he had too many problems. He was very slow in nature, his gameplay was really boring, and at moments it was just very frustrating. The ball. Anyways, in Project 06, Silver has seen some monumental improvements. First of all, the biggest improvement. Upon running for a long enough time, Silver will now enter a mode where he flies faster. Now, don't get me wrong, he's still the slowest gameplay in the game, but this one small improvement made Silver's story feel like it belonged in a Sonic game. Because now, these feel like actual Sonic levels. Silver's levels feel like something I can speedrun and get really good at. Because prior, he just walked everywhere. He was that one friend that walked home after a hangout. Silver also has a really rich fluidity to his movements. I know I already said this for the other characters, but this game is so smooth. And since Silver has the most complex movesets with so many things that you can do, it feels the most impressive that they made Silver feel like a fluent character to control. Like, he doesn't even need Sonic to be good. Also, hey, I did this video in 2 separate recordings, so that's why I'm different now. The main focus of Silver's story is puzzle solving and combat. None of this puzzle solving is super impressive. It is not Portal 2 by any means. Sometimes all you have to do is just hold the right trigger on a glowing circle and that's literally it. A lot of the stuff you do in these levels are just very easy actions that open up pathways to progress. Of course, there's certain moments where the game throws a ball at you, and in this section of the original game, it caused me so much stress. I still get the shakes when I enter this level. Oh, no. Thank God it's easier now, because Chaos X actually put obstacles in the way to prevent the ball from falling into the pits. And if you've played the original, you know how frustrating this is. This part was so stupid. If this was not fixed, I might have just self-imploded. Now it's actually pretty fun. I like this part of the level. And you know what? I didn't even mess up once on it when recording. It was easy. Now, with all this easy puzzle solving, it might place Silver at the bottom of the totem pole, but he is still a very fun part of the game, and you can't take his gameplay for granted. It's almost like a slower Shadow with more in-depth combat. Speaking of combat, it's roughly the same as Sonic 06 this time around, except now you can throw a projectile to stun your enemies, which makes the combat much faster and more convenient. There were times in the original Sonic 06 where you just ran out of stuff to chuck at your enemies, so instead you were forced to get up all close and personal and stun them to pick up the enemies themselves and throw them. And that was not only tedious, but very dangerous for the player. Having to get that close up to an enemy just so you can smack them into a stun lock is it's just not good gameplay. Now you can shoot a projectile from a distance and stun them immediately. There's never a point where you have to struggle with the combat anymore. It's all just smooth, and there's always a solution to every combat situation. Whether it's just chucking boxes at an enemy or grabbing the enemies itself. And due to this, I consider it a massive improvement to Silver's gameplay. Overall, I just love Silver. I think he is a very polished character. But let's talk about the two other playable characters in Silver's story. First, you have Amy Rose. And man, she used to suck in Sonic 06. She was slow, controlled clunky, and now everything is perfect. And I'm tired of using the word perfect, but like, what else do you use for this game? I don't know how Chaos X does it. They got the sauce. I don't know. Every playable character in this game is so awesome to play and are honestly on par with the main trio. And some of them are better than the main trio, such as Amy right here. Just like Omega, you could design an entire game around Amy's moveset because it's just that fun to control her. That's how good some of these characters are. Amy can do a double jump, which feels very nice. She can also do a hammer jump from Sonic Adventure, which is really fun to pull off. And even the combat is great with her. You can just spin with her hammer and mow down enemies with ease. It's so much fun to use. And I feel like you could do so much with levels built around a double jump like Amy's. There's so many opportunities and things you can do with these characters. It feels so underutilized. Blaze, on the other hand, sucks. I'm just kidding, I'm f***ing with you. She controls a lot like Sonic. She has the speed and practically the same gameplay. But now she can do this fire dash move and it allows her to jump around everywhere and decimate everything. It feels so awesome to control. I can't help but spam her dash move, but of course when you do that, you start dying. With great power comes great responsibility. It's so fun to use Blaze, but it's also very easy to die with her and mess up. I can imagine that she's probably a great character to play with for speedrunners, people who know how to actually use her. It kind of reminds me of like Cranky Kong from Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze. Amazing character to play. I love the bounce mechanic, but like if you don't know how to use them, it's kind of more detrimental to you than good. It's the same way with Blaze. There's a very high skill ceiling to use her, which I really like. I just wish I was better at the game so I could use her correctly. Anyways, Blaze is great. All in all, I'd say that Silver's story, while being the weakest, is still so worthwhile to play. And it's crazy to me that all of the main trio has great and fantastic main stories to play through. There's never really a point in Project 06 where you're like, dang, this part sucks. It's like it's a constant high all the way through. Because even with Silver being the lowest point in the game, there's still moments that is better than Shadow and Sonic's story. When you get to play as Blaze, when you get to play as Amy, these moments surpass some of the best moments in the game. Every part of this game has something valuable to offer. That sounds kind of stupid, but like coming from a Sonic fan who has a lot of Sonic games under his belt that does not do that lacks the quality control, and there's moments where you're like, why did they put this in the game? This is very refreshing and it's very consistent. Anyways, let's move on to the conclusion. The consistency of Project 06 is something to be admired. It shows how you can turn an ugly skeleton into a beautiful piece of art. It's definitely one of the best 3D Sonic games because of it. It's at least a top 5. And when I look at a game like Project 06, it makes me wish that we had mainline Sonic games today that had the same amount of care and polish put into it. We might be heading in that direction. After all, Shadow Generations was very polished. But will we ever receive the heights of something like Project 06 where every animation is smooth? There's animations at the beginning of levels. I'm not sure, but it makes this fan game special regardless. Maybe if this was the game that dropped in 2006, we wouldn't be here. We'd be in a much better place for the franchise. And even though the fan game isn't finished yet, it's still a masterpiece in my opinion. A must-play platformer. I do wish it was finished because, man, we are almost there to Sonic 06 being fully recreated. I would love to be able to play Project 06 from beginning to the end with all of the cutscenes and hub worlds and all that. But it seems like Chaos X is done with the project after this next update, which will be adding boss fights and other content. And look, I can't really blame them. They've been working on this game for years. I would probably be more than burnt out by now. In fact, most fan games usually get canceled anyways because it's hard to work on one game alone for multiple years at a time. So the fact that we made it this far is honestly very impressive. Give Chaos X their flowers because they've been working on this game for free for like half a decade now? But I do hope that when the project is finally finished, that someone in the community can be the hero and maybe make a mod for the game that restores the main story. It doesn't have to be super flashy, just add in the hub worlds, update the textures, and give us the cutscenes. Something as simple as that. I think that'd be pretty fire. Anyways, thank you so much, Chaos X, for making this amazing fan game, and thank you all for watching this video. If you like this video, make sure to leave a like and comment your thoughts. And if you want to support me further, you can check out my Patreon down below. You can get videos 3 days early with the $5 plan. And with that said, I love you guys. I'll be seeing you guys very soon. Peace out.